This is unprecedented in a way because Schedule 3 was used to detain and question you, when normally for journalists, Schedule 7 is used. So, can you describe the differences between those sections and the dangerous precedent Schedule 3 sets for journalists and a free press in the UK?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that it may well be the very first time that a journalist has ever been stopped under Schedule 3. You are entirely correct when you say it's usually Schedule 7, which applies to individuals and, potential, individuals posing a risk to the state. But Schedule 3 refers to state threats, people who are acting on behalf of a foreign power in a manner that threatens British national security. I must stress that the wording is terrifyingly Orwellian. You can be suspected, or indeed you can be a state threat without intending to, without wanting to, without knowing that you are, and indeed you can represent a state threat uh, even if the state on whose behalf you are allegedly acting doesn't know you are either.
Yeah, doesn't that just mean that they can just determine that you're a foreign state actor just by saying it? If all of that is true, then what evidence do they need to have then to call you that? None, right?
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, it's I've made this point before, but it bears repeating. I mean, it's quite some conspiracy when both conspirators are unaware they're conspiring with one another. And I think that the reason that this is particularly disturbing in the context of journalism is we have had many years of alternative viewpoints and inconvenient facts being maligned as Russian disinformation. I mean, I have a variety of documents related to British government, kind of covert counter disinformation, quote unquote, operations, which usually involve the intelligence services funding civil society organisations and allegedly independent media organisations in order to, disseminate pro-British propaganda. A lot of their definitions of what constitutes, Russian disinformation is stuff that is avowedly factually true. They even state that one of the reasons that Russian disinformation is so difficult to challenge is that it's often factually true. So yes, we are getting into the realm of the British government of not only being in a position to censor people or have them deplatformed because that they, on entirely spurious grounds, accuse a user on social media of being a Russian or Chinese bot or troll. These people could face yes, investigation, detention, and even arrest and prosecution and potential jail terms for expressing the wrong opinions. I mean, that's the very clear implication of their questioning of the the wording of the law. And I mean, it slipped my mind, but again, it bears repeating that the terms of Schedule 3 are quite incredible. Yes, as I say, that I would have faced arrest if I hadn't complied with hadn't answered their questions or complied or handed over the contents of my digital devices. It specifically states, and the way that it justifies this in the wording of the legislation is that, well, you're not under arrest and you're not under suspicion of having committed a crime. Therefore, you don't have the right to silence. So they are effectively turning your standard rights and protections when if you're arrested on its head and saying, well, because you're not arrested, you don't have those protections. I many years ago, when I was a student, I got stopped under terrorism legislation and in a train station, and the same things were said to me that yes, that like if you refuse to be searched or questioned, then we can arrest you. I mean that particular, I think it was Section 28 of the Terrorism Act. That was ruled to be unlawful by the European Court of Human Rights. So far the European Court of Human Rights has been entirely silent on the 2019 Counter-Terrorism Act. The Britain is also moving to remove itself from the jurisdiction of that court. So I think very rapidly we could have a situation where people say on their way to a protest, like in say an anti-war protest or an anti-NATO protest, are stopped on the basis that police, for no good reason whatsoever, believe them to be working in the interests of the Russian state without even knowing it. I mean, this is pure 1984 thought crime stuff, and it's deeply disturbing.